Just talk about
This is the main course.
But you give electronics.
Yeah. Turn of the century diver helmet.
Adam Savage, everybody. All right, there you go, man.
I figured you had just seen the video, so we didn't need to watch it again, right?
Oh, did it? Is that the same video they just played?
They just played it.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I don't want to waste your time.
Okay, there we go.
Good morning.
Well, you're backstage. You don't know what's going on the monitors. I'm just like, cue the video, and then we're going to roll. And then, here we go.
We'd already run the video.
Perfect. Okay, you guys have seen it already. Well,
Look at this. We've got knights in shining armor. Hello.
Now, let's start with what you were doing, I guess, fairly recently. This is not your first trip to Canada as of lately. You were in Alberta on the set of Ghostbusters. How long ago was that you were there? Because is that last year where they were filming, or when did you?
No, we were here in the summer of 19, in August.
Okay.
Which, I didn't realize how quickly the seasons change here. Because we were filming in August, and they were like, yeah, we got to wrap this up in 2 weeks or it's going to snow.
It's true.
I really had no idea.
A very small window. Yeah, it feels like also time flies. I feel like that was just yesterday, and then this pandemic happened, but yeah, you were in. I guess before everything, they managed to finish Ghostbusters. Everything was safe and fun and good. What was your experience like on set? I mean, growing up with the original film, being a fan of it, that must have been super surreal.
It's super surreal. Also, Jason Reitman, the director, is a good friend, and I had done some consulting. In fact, actually, a couple of years before that, Jason had reached out and said, could you give me some technical jargon about how a pack might be constructed in this way, or, I don't want to give any spoilers. But the next morning I turned in 5,000 words. Because I'm like, Coach, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. We went out to Alberta, and if you've seen the trailers, there's a farmhouse on a hill. None of that existed. They found a hill and they built a set on it. There was a farmhouse that Jason loved, and they actually paid to take it apart and move it to the set.
Wow.
They even planted clover. What you see the Ecto-1 drifting through, that's an entire field that they planted for production.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then after that, they continue on filming, and Jason would be texting me from the set, hey, this character whose knowledge base is not dissimilar from yours is saying this. Is this the right way to say this? And I'm responding to the text, but also a 10-year-old in me is like, I've been waiting my whole life for this moment.
So while you're on set, there's maybe a prop table or two lying around. Did you manage to test out anything, slip anything on, put something in your pocket, maybe walk home with it?
No. I get all of my stuff through official channels.
Okay.
Like we all do, right, everybody? Yeah. I think I can say this now. I built a very small hero prop for the film, actually.
Wow.
And
okay, cool.
We are going to cover that on Tested, the build, the collaboration, the delivery of the prop to the set, and it shows up. I saw the film a couple weeks ago in New York. It's amazing, by the way. I can't wait for you to see it. It is just as loving and funny and goofy and also spooky and scary as the original one. Seriously.
Okay, amazing. And before I brought you out, we were talking about, busting a few myths. Got a lot of cheers on that. People, love you and, MythBusters. Now, when you were on the show, was there any particular, myths that still stand out in your head that really blew you away? Like any particular moments that you thought for sure, no doubt about, it was going to go one way and it went the other way that really shocked you?
Yeah. Actually, there's a fisherman's myth, and there's not a fisherman in the world that doesn't believe this. There's a fisherman's myth that if a cable on a boat, like a braided steel cable on a boat, is stretched to its breaking point, that when it breaks, it will then whip around, and like 13 ghosts, it'll slice right through you like a sword.
Whoa,
now, every
okay.
fisherman knows this to be true. There's countless documentation of it, and we thought, this is great. So we figured out a way to stretch cable to 90% of its breaking strength. We like got the specs from the factory. We had a hydraulic cutter. We had this giant hydraulic meter for testing the strength. And then we were cutting them, and then we figured out if we wrapped the cable around a bollard, when we cut it, it would reach maximum speed at about this 70% mark. And so there we hung a pig carcass, not a live pig, a pig carcass, and we thought seriously, the joke was we thought we'd be eating sliced ham by lunch, right? And I was really looking forward to a high-speed shot of a cable slicing through this pig carcass. And the first one we did, it just dented the pig. And we're like, we're getting something wrong. And so we used a thicker cable, and we used a thinner cable. And it's lunchtime, and I'm like, this is weird. So I call up the lead producer, Linda, and I said, you have all the documentation, but do you have any first-person accounts? Has anyone seen this with their eyes? Because there's a lot of ways to get torn apart by a cable on a boat. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. Calls me back in 10 minutes. No, not a single eyewitness account. And so we ended the day busting a myth that I was sure was going to be true. And I was delighted to know, no, our methodology is totally sound here. We're doing everything absolutely right. I feel like I'm rounding my vowels just because I'm in Canada. That's like the Zelig in every one of us.
And on the show, did you guys have like a final pig count by the time it was the final season? How many pigs were used in the name of science?
I want to tell you that using the pigs was really upsetting to Jamie Heineman. It upset the conservationist in him. So after the first couple that we used, and I think that was one of the very early ones, we made sure to find ways to donate, either for various industries, animal food or human food. Jamie took one pig home and tried to cook it in his fireplace, much to his wife's chagrin, because it took a long time and still didn't work.
Okay, we'll just bounce off of that one and keep on. But yeah, interesting talking about that particular story and how things are repeated over time and they kind of become truth, and then we don't really kind of know where it originated, and a myth is born. And I feel like maybe the same thing has happened to you specifically, maybe on the internet. So I've actually found a few little factoids about Mr. Adam Savage, and let's bust some Adam Savage myths before we go to audience questions. Okay, so just. You let me know if these are true or this is just a myth, okay?
I'm game.
Okay. In the first 3 seasons of MythBusters, the beard was actually glued on.
I will tell you that people would ask, did you have makeup on the show, or was there anyone concerned with? No, there was. Okay. The only thing anyone ever said to us about our appearance was on the first day of filming the pilots in the spring of 2002. The cameraman buttoned off and leaned over and said, if you could just wear roughly the same thing every day, that would be great. That's literally the only... Actually, no, years and years and years later, in the penultimate season of MythBusters, I went on this jag of wearing polo shirts. There's a few episodes in which you see me wearing a polo shirt. I don't know why. I thought I would mix it up. And my producer was like, you look like you're ready to go out. You don't look like you're ready to get dirty. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, you're right.
That's when you pop the collar.
Yeah. Both collars.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, my bad. You're the son of an animator.
I am the son of an animator. My father, among many other disciplines, was an animator who... I grew up on Sesame Street, as most people here did, and one of the things about Sesame Street is it is 1/3 humans, 1/3 puppets, 1/3 animation. And the little animations that are the interstitials between the human and the puppets, my father made about 60 of those over my childhood. And he did it specifically because he wanted to paint, and this was the most efficient way for him to do that. So he would go to Children's Television Workshop every year and pitch them a dozen ideas. They would always buy 1 or 2. That would be enough to pay the rent for the year, to pay the mortgage, sorry. And he would go out to the studio behind our house in Tarrytown, New York, and he would literally draw, ink, paint, and film these interstitials in his studio alone for about 3 months. and then he could get back to painting for the other 9 months of a year.
Wow, is that what kind of fueled that for you? That creativity and that wanting to kind of like put things together and.
Well, I was always encouraged to put stuff together. Look, my dad was a complicated man, and growing up with him was difficult in many ways. But that example, the austerity of that example, of seeing someone who, he didn't show his work either very much. He had success as an artist. He's collected into the Hirshhorn and the Whitney museums, but that was way early in his career. When I was a kid, he wasn't showing. So I grew up with the example of someone doing this genuinely pointless exercise in their studio to serve themselves and the people that they loved. Like, he had friends come over and they would talk about their work, but that was it. And that was there's a real purity to that is a lovely thing to be able to witness. Yeah. Because, you know, we can only think as far as the models that we've been shown much of the time. Yeah. Occasionally our brains break through and think of new stuff on their own, but it's much more that we latch on to things that we've already seen, and that was a really important lesson.
Great, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. Your main obsessions in life are Star Wars, Lego, and juggling.
Well, no, that was sorry. That would have been true when I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah, juggling. Hello, ladies.
Are you a juggler?
I am a juggler.
Okay,
absolutely.
You can juggle.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
Not your main obsession anymore.
Oh no, but my childhood. My parents described my childhood as the sound of beanbags dropping in the other room. Ba-ba-bum. And then I bought a unicycle, and I taught myself how to ride that, and I could ride that up and down stairs, and yeah. I don't know why I was collecting these skills. I just knew it felt really good to do them.
You never know. A fun little party trick, I guess. In college, you mysteriously survived a gamma radiation experiment and now always wear extremely stretchy pants. Is that... I feel like that one might be true.
No.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I didn't go to college, but...
Oh, okay.
Okay, I spent 6 months at NYU pretending to attend their acting school. But in fact, I was...
That's the ultimate acting right there. If you were acting as a... I feel like you should have passed just for that.
I was such an arrogant little... I had no ambition because I thought I was really clever. And I also was under the mistaken impression that clever was enough. Clever is not enough. Seriously, you will run into so many clever people who don't do stuff, and you will run into so many idiots who are running the whole show. So it takes hard work. And I didn't know it was going to take hard work, right? I didn't know it was going to, yeah. It took me a while for life to kind of smack some sense into my head.
It is a timely one as we're getting into Halloween. You once dressed up as yourself for Halloween.
But not for Halloween.
Not for Halloween. Okay. Tell us more about this one.
It was San Diego Comic-Con a few years ago. Some of the footage is in that trailer. We thought it would be funny to do an Adam Savage flash mob. First of all, the San Diego Comic-Con itself is absolutely against flash mobs. When we even mentioned, they were like, no. But we thought it would be funny, and I also was clear that it was a difficult line to ride of like self-aggrandizement versus self-effacing and being funny about it. Yeah. And we didn't quite hit our mark. I'll just say that. It felt a little weird when we were doing it.
What did you, to dress up as yourself, is there anything you particularly, whipped out for that? Did you put on the signature polo maybe? Or
No. It was, I bought 50 pairs of glasses that were close to mine on Amazon for like $1 a piece. I took my cowboy hat that I wore through most of MythBusters and I sent it to Fawn Davis. Oh my God, I realize your dress is Finding Dory and I love it. That's amazing. I was like, why are those colors so familiar to me? I took a hat from MythBusters and sent it to Fawn Davis of Fawn Co. And Fawn molded it in plaster and made 50 vacuum forms of the cowboy hat. And then we took some fur that was close to the color of my beard and we cut out 50 beards, which is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my shop. 50 of my goatees laid out on the pool table. And we thought it would be funny. It wasn't quite as funny as we were hoping.
Be awesome if it was you as yourself and someone walked by and was like, lame costume.
That's what I was hoping. I was totally hoping. But it's not going to happen.
And lastly, you appeared as a teenage grocery clerk in one of Charmin's long-running Mr. Whipple television ads.
Yes.
In the early 1980s.
Yep, that's true. That was my first acting job. I played Mr. Whipple's stock boy in Timmy.
Timmy.
Or Jimmy. I think it's Jimmy, in a Charmin commercial, and I was complaining that the roof was leaking all over the new Charmin, and Mr. Whipple instructed me that no, new Charmin is stronger when wet than any other commercial tissue. And I said, gosh, Mr. Whipple, that's what I call wet strength. And somehow that line didn't make it into the final commercial.
Oh.
So then I ran into someone about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. No, longer than that, because it was before MythBusters had aired. And I ran into someone who said, oh, I'm sure I saw that commercial. And I said, I don't know that it ever aired, because I don't remember making any money from it. And they said, no, I'm sure I saw it. So I called up my mom, and I said, did that commercial ever air? And she said, absolutely. And I said, did I make any money from it? And she said, totally. And I said, where is that money? And she said, you remember the year you spent pretending to go to NYU? You paid for it. Yeah. The really nice thing about that is that it actually took, I had felt guilty about sponging rent off my parents until I was like 22. And that sort of released all that guilt at once. Because I realized they still made out financially.
I love it. I like sponging rent, little pun, accidental pun in there, huh? What do you think? All right, guys. I know there's a ton of people here, although many of you have questions for Adam. So we have a mic runner. What is your name?
John.
John, everybody. Okay. So John will be running the mic around to you. So if you have a question, kind of raise your hand, try to get John's attention, and we'll slowly make our way through. So John, dealer's choice. If you see anybody in your immediate area?
Right there.
There we go, right here in the front.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, hello again.
Whatever happened to the Velociraptor costume?
Velociraptor
Oh my gosh.
costume.
The Velociraptor costume. You will hopefully see the Velociraptor costume soon. I think that's all I'm allowed to say right now. It is such a pain in my ass, but you will see it soon, hopefully.
All right, John, who do we got?
Hi.
Hello.
My question is kind of a two-parter. One is there a difference between building the machines from MythBusters and building the costumes you love to cosplay? And two, what's your favorite build on MythBusters?
Ooh, great questions, both of them. They're fundamentally different from a mental frame, right? Because on MythBusters, it was always about servicing both a scientific methodology, but trying to be funny at the same time. Also attempting to like get our actual point across about the science and the engineering of what we were working with. And so that's a really specific mental process. God, it felt good. I mean, it was really, really fun to do on the show. My favorite build, look, it's hard to choose. We did this, we made almost 300 episodes, but early on in the first season, we were doing a story about will a penny thrown from the Empire State Building kill you when it hits the ground? This is a myth. Lots of people believe that pennies thrown from high heights will just continue increasing in speed. And, you know, I remember being a grade school kid and being told, oh, that penny will go right through you and 6 feet into the ground. And, like, people have been trading this story forever. However, if you visit the Empire State Building, you'll find every level below the observation deck is littered with change. So people are just murderers, clearly. We wanted to test this, and we started to look into it, and it turned out that there was some really interesting research done on this by a NASA scientist in their spare time. NASA actually has a vacuum drop tank that I think is like a couple of 100 feet deep, and they can pull a complete vacuum on it and drop stuff in it and witness what it does, which is really cool. So the guy had tried it with a penny, and then he had tried a penny in the chamber without that, and he had come to this both mathematical and empirical conclusion that a penny has two different terminal velocities. One on its edge, which is at about 70 miles an hour, and one on its face that's about 20 miles per hour. Now, most objects, when they fall, they tend to find a stability in falling. Sorry, how do I say this? They tend to find their stability in the highest resistance position. I can't remember the physics of why that's true, but that means that most things, if they have more than one terminal velocity, will choose their lowest terminal velocity, and that will be their stable falling position. But a penny, and a bullet will do this. A bullet falls, if you let it like work itself out, a bullet falls on its like sideways. It's really neat. We like shot them into the air, and they made like literally bullet-shaped holes in the sand, in the playa. But a penny does not do that. A penny actually is called a tumbling object, and it switches between its two terminal velocities. And we had this math from a NASA scientist to explain it. And I was on my way home from New York City, from the Empire State Building, and I was on the plane, and I was thinking, this is 4 months into a hosting gig. I've never hosted a television show. I've never been on television before. And I'm like, you know, I'm in my 30s, I've recently divorced, I'm kind of an insane person for all of these reasons. And this moment, flying back from New York City, was the first time I had a point of view on the narrative that we were telling on the show. And I thought, I don't want to just describe math on camera. Like, I would like to show this physically, because I don't understand it when I read the math, and I don't think if I don't understand it, the audience won't understand it. So then I was like, well, someone must have made a wind tunnel to show the bifurcated terminal velocity of a penny. And turns out no one had. So I did. And I took this tube of acrylic, which I still have. I drilled some holes in the side. I did some experiments with it. I put some air up its jacksie and measured with an anemometer the wind at the top and the bottom, and I got the speeds I want. And my thesis, my hypothesis was, if I got the wind speeds right, when I put the penny in, it would go up and down inside the tube. And when I put the penny in, and it did in fact go up and down inside the tube, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you this. I experienced one of the most delicious endorphin rushes of my whole life up till then. Because I was like, holy cow, I thought of something, I demonstrated it, and it worked the way I had hypothesized. This must be why people like science. Yeah. And I'm really clear now that, like, I don't like making generalizations about things at all. Like, I once had a packaging design teacher who told me the most refined form of art expression is package design. And I was like, that's objectively ridiculous. Because everyone, you always think the thing that you're doing is the one that's the most important. However, every working scientist I've ever met loves their freaking job. I have never met a working scientist that didn't, and I feel like I got a glimpse into why at that moment. So that's my all-time favorite build because of what I got to see. Thank you for that great question.
Very cool. I feel like, you know, you're really truly living the dream with what you wanted to do in life. And I know some people, when they're really chasing that dream, they always have a plan B, maybe tucked away somewhere. Did you ever have one of those? Like, would you like be a school teacher if, you know, this didn't work? Or what was did you have a plan B at all?
Yeah,
or?
I have a plan B, C, D, E, Z. I have plan Z. I mean, I'm like, well, I guess if everything really shat the bed, I'm sorry, if there are children in the audience, you should just know that when adults curse, it is so cool. It just makes us even cooler. But kids, when you curse around adults, it's gross. So just curse when there's no adults around. So part of my head, like, look, I've been a freelancer since I was in my 20s. And when you're a freelancer, it's no matter how big and fat the current job is, you are always wondering what is next. And I'm still wondering what is next. And I have this, we all have a fantasy in our head of like, what's the worst possible case scenario? And my worst possible case scenario, I'm like fixing local neighbors' cars and stuff from my small place on the top of a 2-car garage. Like, I feel like that's as bad as it could get. And I'm content with that, if that's what life decided to give me. And everything above that is a fantasy. I mean, I really try and spend a lot of time in gratitude for getting to build the things that I get to build, to hear the stories that you guys tell me at the autograph table. I'm so grateful to hear those stories and to make those connections. So yeah, whenever I get salty about the world, I remind myself of what an incredible thing I get to do.
It's amazing. Awesome. Well, let's go to another audience question over there. What do we got?
So, I'm wondering, first of all, could you make something explode on stage right now? Second of all, could you show the clip of the sculpture of the bunny that was made out of C4 exploding?
Oh, that was great. I cannot make an explosion on stage, although I did just fart a little bit. I'll bet Tanner can't smell it. I bet he's too far away.
The air conditioning has kicked in. It's
it was just a left cheek sneak, that's all. Yeah, my humor is, the deeper into the bathroom I get, the funnier I think things are.
So no to making things explode. It's
no,
not coming out of yourself. Okay.
No, but making the bunny was for MythBusters Jr., am I right? Did we make the bunny for MythBusters Jr.?
I recall the bunny.
I think we did. Getting to like hand a 12-year-old some C4 for an experiment is one of the most fun things I've ever done. Truly. Oh, I also got to teach a 12-year-old how to drive and drift on tires made of duct tape. That was awesome.
You're like that uncle everyone wishes they had, eh?
Well, so I was like, I called up when MythBusters Jr., we had this segment, and I was like, well, the segment would be best if if Cannon could do the driving. And I called our stunt guy, and I was like, Nick, is it okay to have a 12-year-old behind the wheel? And he's like, yeah, on a closed course, and a person that the insurance company considers certified to train them. And I'm like, okay, who is that? And he's like, oh, no, that's you. You've gotten enough training over the years on MythBusters. I'll certify you. And you can be the stunt driving coordinator. And I'm like, I'm a stunt driving coordinator now?
Wow, you've got like one heck of a resume, my friend. Jeez. Do you have anything like on that resume that you want to, like any bucket list things that you really want to cross off? Because I feel like you've done a lot of really cool kind of jobs and little side offshoot things, but is there anything that you really want to like?
Oh yeah, no, look, I wouldn't mind being a civilian ambassador to space, but we've already got one of those in the building.
Okay, yeah, it's true.
I would love to go to space. No, I've gotten to do some crazy things. I got to go to above 70,000 feet elevation in the back of the Dragon Lady of the U-2 spy plane. That was amazing. I got to fly in the back of a Hornet, F-18 Hornet with the Blue Angels, an experience in which vomiting repeatedly does not take away from the enjoyment at all. I've never experienced anything else quite like that, but vomiting was like not diminishing my joy at all. I was just like, this is amazing. Hold on. All right, next barrel roll.
Oh, man. Where does it go? Like when you vomit like that?
Well, you have like a big stack of air sickness bags, and then you're wearing a flight suit, and that's what all those pockets are for.
And you just
I had seven pockets full of vomit by the time I got off that plane.
Wow.
And I was swaggering.
Someone had to clean that suit after.
No, they didn't get on the suit. It was all in the bags.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't make someone do that.
Wow. They call you puke pockets after that?
No. They said they can make anyone throw up. Also, when you're pulling G's in a Hornet, you don't have a G suit.
Yeah.
In most planes, when you're pulling G's, there's a G suit, and the G suit is simply air bladders that push blood from the rest of your body back into your head. Because at 7.5 G's, I weigh 1,500 pounds. And also, it turns out at 7.5 G's, I look just like my father. This is all gravity. And normally you'd have a G-suit that pushes the blood into your head, but the Blue Angels, the G-suit inflating would actually throw off their yoke control. And when you're landing on an aircraft carrier in the North Sea at night and it's bouncing up and down in the water, you need absolutely total control. So the Blue Angels work out for 2 hours every day on their core just so they can use their stomach muscles to keep blood in their head. And they can chat with you while you're doing it. And for civilians, what you're doing is you're sitting there going, hey, gah, you're making that sound, and that sound is literally like keeping the pass-out tunnel away. Like if you stop doing it, you can start to see the tunnel form that you're going to pass out. Yeah, it's real.
You needed some of that Charmin for wet strength, I think.
Nice callback.
Yeah. For next time, the next flight. All right, another question over there. Go ahead.
Hi. So I was just wondering if there was ever a myth that you really wanted to test, but it's been too dangerous, and if so, what was it?
Well, so we had this one about an oxygen truck that spills liquid oxygen all over the roadbed, and instead of killing the Terminator, the idea is that the oxygen combined with the asphalt causes the whole road to explode. And we experimented with liquid oxygen enough to know that liquid oxygen, and I'm sure the chemists in the room understand and agree with this, is the scariest stuff on Earth. Because whereas oxygen makes things burn, liquid oxygen turns them into bombs. And it's not an exaggeration. Like an oily rag doused in liquid oxygen, and you hit it with a hammer, and your hand's going to be gone. It's like that powerful. So and we couldn't do a stunt like that unless we did it full size. And then we were wondering, like, what happens when a cloud of liquid oxygen moves towards a highway? Does it start to make all the cars rev higher? Does everyone start to speed up? We don't know. So that's one we didn't do. However, the one story we didn't do that I'm sad was not because it was dangerous. We had this story, and it was a Native American myth, specifically about hunting ducks. That if you want to hunt ducks, you find a pond where they congregate, and you float some pumpkins out on the pond. And the ducks get used to the pumpkins. And once they're used to pumpkins floating on the pond, you cut some eye holes out of one, and you put it on your head, and you swim out to the ducks. And they pay no attention to you because you look just like a pumpkin. And actually, a hunter once told me that he tried it, and that you can go right up to the duck and grab it by its feet and pull it under, and the duck next to it won't even notice. Now, we weren't going to do that on the show. We weren't going to do that on the show. But I loved this pumpkin duck hunting myth. And I had gone so far as to make a remote control camera pumpkin so that we could cover all the action. And this was all for the last season of MythBusters. And we had a story, and I can't remember which one it was, that went so south, that screwed up so badly, we ended up with all this extra narrative. Right? And when you're filming, you get what you get. And we just had this like extra wrinkle in a story that gave us an extra 15 minutes of footage that we knew was fantastic for the show, but it meant we had to get rid of a segment. And as a producer, I knew which segment had to go, and so I still haven't gotten to hunt ducks with pumpkins yet.
You never did shoot that?
No, we never did.
Okay.
Someday, a boy can dream.
Hey. It is pumpkin season. You're here for another couple hours here. Yeah, let's. All right, back to another question. Go ahead.
So first, loved MythBusters. Was so sad to see it go. Was there any myth going into it? You were 100%. There is absolutely no chance this is ever going to work, and then it did.
A golf ball car. The myth. So a golf ball. If you shoot a regular golf ball and a smooth golf ball, you'll be amazed because the smooth one goes like 1/3 as far. The detents on a golf ball create a certain type of air flow around the ball that give it a slipstream. And there's a myth that you can apply this to cars. There are people that sell vinyl wraps for cars that have little pips in them, and they claim that it saves your gas mileage. And all of these mileage myths, by the way, are like, it is such diminishing returns with them. Your mood affects your gas mileage by like 10 to 12%. Your mood at any given point in the day can alter your mileage by 10 or 12%. So all of these things that are supposed to save you 1 or 2%, they're not nearly as good as just meditating. However, with this one, we decided to go all out. We hired some automotive students from the Academy of Art College who covered this Toyota Corolla with clay, and then we carved 1,050 detents into that were proportionally correct for the car into the surface of the clay. We ran it undetented, and then we ran it detented. And also, actually trying to figure out precisely how much fuel you've used in a short test is also really difficult. So we did this with a fuel cell where we had a single gallon that we were able to put in the car, plug into the fuel system, run it for 1 mile, pull it out, and weigh the fuel. This is literally, like, flow meters don't work as well. You have to do it this way. And when we did it that way, we found an improvement of 15% on the gas mileage for the detented car. And we were so psyched. If you watch that episode, you'll see me and Jamie at the trunk of a car kind of gobsmacked that this actually worked. And then we didn't shoot any coverage of that, which means we didn't go in for reverses or a master shot. We were like, what you got there is funnier and weirder and more of our genuine response than anything you'll get after that. Coda, about a year after that episode aired, we got an email from one of the big 3 automakers in Detroit where they had pulled a car, because in Detroit, their first models of a full-size car are often in clay. They had pulled one of their clay masters out of storage, carved detents in it, and done wind tunnel tests on it, and they wrote to us to tell us that they didn't come to the same conclusion. Now, they didn't use the same car, so I don't accept their results. But second of all, I love that we wasted the time of a giant auto manufacturer.
Wow. Is there ever a point where you're diving into something, you're trying to, you're about to bust a myth, and maybe it just starts to kind of, it starts to really add up to a lot of work, things start going sideways. Do you see it through? Do you pull the plug? Like, what happens if it starts to really, really stack up and you're like, okay, we're not going to fit this into an episode anymore?
Well, that was,
has that ever happened?
I'm not sure that ever happened, but that balance between storytelling, personal experience, scientific methodology, what ends up on camera, what ends up in the final edit, balancing all of those elements was the most fun mental frame to hold. Because it's like, look, doing anything for a living is prioritizing based on your institutional knowledge. And the institutional knowledge required to be a Mythbuster is really weird and delightful for the brain. All 5 of us had this experience repeatedly. And so it's mostly just like, look, it almost doesn't matter what happens in the last act as long as it's funny, thrilling, or scary, right? And we'll be clear that most of the science in Mythbusters happens in the middle of the show. That's where we do the scale experiment that confirms what we're doing. And then we go big scale just for fun. That's how we keep you watching. We blow something up. But yeah, those balancing all those elements is a really fun thing to do with your brain. It felt really good.
Yeah, very cool. All right, another question. Who do we got? Go ahead.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you as a teacher for all the work that you did to inspire kids on getting things wrong before they get things right, and that the importance of getting things wrong and learning from your mistakes. On top of that, I just want to ask you, in terms of special effects, is there any special effects that you see in movies that you think go underappreciated?
Oh, special effects in movies that are underappreciated. Wow.
Obviously, The Rock's appearance of Scorpion King and in The Mummy, which is iconic.
Oh my God. I know that there is one. I'm going to have to ponder that for a minute, and it may end up being a tweet later, because it's a really it's a question I have not gotten, which is amazing after all these years. But yes, there's an answer to that. I'm just going to have to ponder. We should move on to the next question while I think about it.
Give it up to the teacher with the stumper of a question.
Yeah, no, it's a really good one.
Okay, question on the side over there. Go ahead.
Hello. My hobby is making scale models, and I was inspired to start kit bashing after watching a few of your videos on Tested. I actually made a spaceship out of a bunch of Gundam parts I had.
Oh, Gundam.
I airbrushed it, and I actually gave it to my engineering and robotics teacher before I graduated from high school. And I was just wondering, what inspired you to sort of become a maker?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I grew up with my father always making. And he was also a real DIYer. He built the deck on the back of our house 3 times, and by the 3rd time, he got it mostly right. We had this joke in our family that every time my dad built something, it looked like it had been there forever. So that one time my parents were driving, and I grew up in Sleepy Hollow, New York, and one time my parents were driving through New Hampshire, and they went to this thrift store where they found this beautiful old, big, square, boxy soapstone sink. And they tore out the stainless steel sink in the kitchen of my house, and they put in this old soapstone sink. And to surround it, my dad took apart this like 19th century cabinet that we had in the basement and sort of built the shelves around the sink. And it made the kitchen really beautiful and interesting. And so I grew up with this example. My parents loved, by the way, the fact that later on, after that sink went in, they got their house appraised. And because of the soapstone sink in the kitchen, they took a bunch of value off the value of the house, which lowered their property taxes. My parents were like, soapstone for the win.
That's awesome. Happy little accident. Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions, so let's go over to you.
Adam. I like to consider myself a maker, but I think I'm more of a semi-maker. I've got so many unfinished projects in my laboratory, my basement. Do you have any words of wisdom to help me along with that, or?
Well, you say you have a lot of unfinished projects, and yet you also had the forethought to bring your own chair. So clearly you're a planner. Yeah, we're all going to die with a to-do list and items not checked off on it. I built a whole wall of shelving in my shop just for uncompleted projects. I want them staring at me. And I collect kits and things too fast to build for me to build them all. And you know, it's iterative. I try not to be too hard on myself when I drop a project, and I drop lots of them. And I also get hard on myself about dropping them. But you know, there are times you hit a wall, and there are all sorts of different things that bring you back to that project. Actually, I mean, I will say this one thing is, it's really important to experience the power of starting back over from scratch. This is a thing that's really hard for a young maker to do. It was really difficult for me to do. When you're working on something and it's not glowing and it's not working, the ability to chuck everything and start again is so powerful. And it is a muscle, and it's a muscle we have to develop. So it's like really worth, like, I'm halfway through building this little paper thing, screw it, I'm going to buy this book again and build it again. It's a powerful act, and doing that a lot, and especially like in the film industry, that might be your only path to success at some point. You know, when somebody destroys a hero prop on set, options are limited, and the director wants you to deliver something. You're like, okay, here are the X number of options, and some of them mean that I might have to work all night to get this done. It is great to develop that muscle early and often. This is just a new area I've been thinking about the starting over from scratch, the chucking everything you've done. It's the opposite of the sunk cost fallacy, right? Because I think that's one of the reasons that we end up trailing along a project that's not been working. And I think recognizing that it's not going to work, it feels like a loss, but it's not necessarily a loss if you jump back in. I hope that was somewhat helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got time for one more question, so go ahead. Last question.
What was it like being on The Simpsons?
Oh, so awesome. So I got this email from The Simpsons producers. Adam and Jamie, we would like to Simpsonize you. And I'm reading it. And like my face is like, I'm like, oh my God. And then I look up, and there's Jamie standing at the door to my office, and he's like, did you see your email? I'm like, yeah! And he's like, I thought you'd be thrilled. So they were like, would you like to go to a recording studio in San Francisco and record this, or come down to Los Angeles and record it with us? And I was like, that is a no-brainer. We're going to go to Los Angeles. So we got to watch Dan Castellaneta do a scene with, with who? we got to watch several recording sessions with different cast members working with each other, which is amazing. When one of the actors is doing more than one voice in a scene, they just do it live. Yeah. So Hank Azaria drops into every character he is in a scene, and they don't miss a trick. I've also sat through a couple of table reads where the writers don't allocate an accent for each actor. They just know which of their various cast members is going to play this new character, and they come up with a voice in the table read, which is usually ending up being the final voice. It's an amazing thing to witness. In my bathroom at the Cave in San Francisco, I have all these pictures and stuff from around. But the one that's my favorite is that after you appear on The Simpsons, they send you an animation cell of your episode, and Matt Groening signs it and says, "Thank you for letting us Simpsonize you." And I mean, it just like, between that and getting spoofed in The Onion, it felt like we'd embedded ourselves deep into culture.
So cool. And
Yeah.
Also, just embedding yourself into like the lives of so many people. I feel like you've collectively, made us all smarter, more curious, more inquisitive. How many?
As long as your houses are still standing.
all the people you've inspired. How does that feel to know that you've left? You're making this mark on people, and like look at all the people that are here today to see you and for the work that you've done and continue to do.
Hearing that story is endlessly humbling, and I try not to make a lot of conclusions from it because people are telling me about their lives, not about mine. But it is a singular grace to be able to hear the ways in which the stuff that we did impacted any of you guys in your lives, positively or negatively. I had a kid come up to my line last week, and he's like, "I loved MythBusters. Tested's a little boring." He was just 14. He was telling me the truth. I loved it.
Tough critic. Tough
Exactly.
critic. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and Adam,
Thank you guys so
much. Adam
Love you
Savage,
guys.
everybody.